I'm doing pretty well. Recovering from that Ravens collapse with Porzingis career night, so at least
Nice.
something good happened.
Nice. Yeah, I will
He
switch.
played great.
Yeah, for sure. Arun, I see that you've joined the team as well. How are you doing tonight?
Pretty good. They mic'd up Denny tonight, so maybe they should mic him up every night because Porzingis went off because of that, I think.
Interesting. Because he wanted to be the one mic'd up, or why would Denny being mic'd up give poor to Zingas?
I don't know. Today he was mic'd up for some reason, and after every game he's like, "Denny's played really well tonight," even though Denny doesn't usually play that well.
Yeah. Um we're gonna go back in time and talk about the earlier games. Unfortunately, there's two rematch games against the Heat. I know, Arun, you weren't on last week show, but you did get to go to the game against the Heat with me. That was a fun night. I'm gonna let you speak to that previous one first because we didn't talk about it with you last week. What were your thoughts on the tribute to the Big Three and that crazy overtime win?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy that the overtime was the lowest scoring in NBA history. It was like 3-2, and Porzingis went off in the first quarter, and then he went on to struggle for the rest of the game against the Heat. But in that first quarter, he was on fire. But then Beal played pretty well. Kuzma hit that 3-pointer to tie the game. Miami didn't have like Bam, Tyler Hero, or Jimmy Butler, but even then, Kyle Lowry looked like he usually does against the Wizards. He looked like the all-star player that he used to be, and I think he had like a career night. But I think he missed some free throws down the stretch, which helped the Wizards get to overtime. He missed the three. Corey Kispert did a good job guarding him, and it was nice for the Wizards to win, even though the Heat were pretty shorthanded.
Yeah, it was a fun game to go to with you. I have now put the hat up there, which is now I think going to be maybe a keepsake someday, especially because the company that sponsored it is pretty much out of business now. But it's it was a really fun game. I love that we went there just to celebrate the Big Three, but it ended into a really good basketball game. I'm gonna pull up the box score real quickly here, and we can break down the unfortunate rematch game here. So the Heat, we played them twice in a row, and in Miami, sandwiched around Thanksgiving. The first game, the Heat outscored them 28-26 in the first quarter. Then they had a tremendous second quarter, outscored them 32-17. And the Wizards stormed back in the third, outscored them 37-23. But then the Heat went on to outscore the Wizards 30-25 in the fourth quarter for a 113-105 victory. I'm going to start off with Champ. What are your thoughts on this game?
Oh, this was tough. You're coming off of, a victory over them with the Big Three in the house, and next thing you know, you go to their arena, and the second and third quarter just seems to be the bane of this team's existence. Like, if they don't get them out of the way in the second and or the third quarter, they seem to just fall. They can't seem to get it together in those quarters. Porzingis played well, 21 points, of course, with Kyle Kuzma led the team in scoring with 33. A good team effort scoring wise, but defensively, clearly they just were outmatched and they fell very flat, and the Heat were able to get their revenge instead of us being able to run it up on them in their own house.
Yeah. And Tim, what are some of your thoughts on this game?
I would just say the Wizards, they've been playing kind of up and down basketball, and it was tough for them to do this back-to-back in Miami. It's just not a normal schedule. And as you guys said, Miami wanted some revenge probably from the loss in DC. But just you can't fall behind so much by halftime. They had a great third quarter to get back into it, but just not enough. And the Heat are still, still a good team. You got to take them seriously. And the Wizards just aren't good enough to have these terrible lapses. They don't have that much talent to kind of come back. they really need to put together a full game like tonight. But this was definitely not one of their better games.
Yeah, and Arun, your takeaway.
There was no Bradley Beal in this game, and Miami got back a couple of their players, Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero. And I think overall the Wizards played relatively well, considering they didn't have Beal, Rui, Morris, and DeLon Wright. They did have Barton, but Kuzma was, even though he had 33 points, he was only 2 of 13 from 3-point range. Pretty bad. Denny had 10 points in the first half, but he only had 2 for the rest of the game. But he was 1 rebound shy away from a triple double. And Porzingis' poor shooting continued, only 21 points. The Wizards did make a game out of it in the third quarter, but I think they're a little bit too short-handed. They're not like Miami. Miami was still without Jimmy Butler, but I don't think the Wizards are as well coached as Miami, who is coming off a conference finals appearance, and Eric Spoelstra has been one of the best coaches in the NBA. So disappointing loss for the Wizards, though. Still,
Yeah, I agree. I've shared it to a couple of Wizards groups, so we'll see if anybody jumps in on Facebook to talk about this. I'm gonna jump ahead to the next game real fast. It's the same opponent. Unfortunately, similar result. The Wizards did have a really good first quarter, outscored them 38-28, but unfortunately the Heat once again had a great second quarter, outscored them 28-21. They outscored them in the third 29-26, and then in the fourth 25-22 for a 110-107 victory over us. But it was a really close game through a lot of it. Kyle Kuzma had 28 points, Bradley Beal 28 points, Porzingis had 18. And for the Heat, Bam had a hell of a game against us. I mean, scored a majority of their points. And yeah, we'll start off with you, Champ. What are your thoughts on this game?
Bam Adebayo could not be stopped, and he couldn't be contained either. 38 points and 12 rebounds. That's an impressive double-double for the big man in the middle. And for a team that usually dominates in the middle when it comes to points in the paint, they sure gave up. They really gave up a lot going up against Adebayo in this one. You also had Tyler Hero back at it, and he had 11 points, 10 assists. So he had another double-double as well. This was just an all-around, just the fight in the team, the Wizards was what was there. It's just that it just wasn't enough fight, honestly. Wasn't enough fight. And, you know, when you look at the scoring breakdown, they got out to a 10-point lead in the first quarter. But then, once again, it's those 2 quarters there. It's the second and the third quarter are once again the driving force for a loss. They got outscored by 7 in the second and 3 in the third. And then the fourth quarter, they still couldn't. They tried to come back, but couldn't do enough with it. And so after losing in Miami on Wednesday, they come back Friday and they still lose again. And this is the beginning of what looks to be a bad week for this Wizards team.
Yeah, frustrating. Tim, what are some of your thoughts on this game?
It was good for the Wizards to get Beal back, and I think overall they played better in this game. They had a strong first quarter. They came out with some energy. The defense was decent, but the shooting was just terrible. They didn't make threes in this game. Kispert missed 1 for 7. A lot of the Wizards were shooting really badly from 3. I think if the Wizards just shot a little bit better, they could have taken this game. And I saw the end. It was kind of, one possession game at the end, and the Wizards just collapsed. I think better execution at the end, they could have stolen this game. But end of the day, it's just, you have to win games like this because Miami is a divisional opponent. So I think getting swept in this is going to hurt maybe late in the year. But just, at least the effort was better in this one.
Yeah. I want to give a quick just scoring update. The Indianapolis Colts are actually beating the Steelers 17-16 right now in a battle of a 4-6-1 and a 3-7 team. Pittsburgh on first down is going backwards, which I'm sure that Tim can appreciate. All right, we got 12:55 left in the fourth quarter there, but we'll give scoring updates throughout this and that as well. And then Arun, what were some of your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I think the key was pretty much they couldn't slow down Bam with the pick and roll coverages. KP was kind of either giving up open jumpers or Bam was getting right to the hoop. Gafford only played 8 minutes, but he had 6 points. It was a little bit. I think a lot of people are criticizing Ansel for not playing Gafford a little bit more, considering he was playing pretty well in that fourth quarter when the Wizards had a 6-point lead, but they ended up giving that up pretty quickly once Porzingis was back in the game. But I think Corey Kispert, he's only a second-year player, but 1 of 7 from 3-point range, and that's pretty much all he's supposed to do is hit threes. And he missed one of the key shots. Then I think the Wizards wasted a timeout inbounding the ball with like 30 seconds to go. They got an easy slam dunk, and they fouled, but then they didn't get to call timeout to draw up a play, and Beal dribbled the ball off his foot, and that was the game. And it was a pretty terrible isolation play to get the 3 points, but I don't think you're going to get a really good shot against that kind of Miami defense. And Beal overall, he did his part though. For most of the game, he hit 4 of his 7 3-pointers, and the rest of the team was 7 of 32. So they really need to fix the 3-point shooting, especially KP was 1 of 4, and Denny 0 of 4. So, and Kuzma shot 2 of 13 the last game. He was a little bit better, 3 of 10 from 3-point range. The Wizards, it's kind of disappointing that they couldn't win this game because Miami didn't have Jimmy Butler, but I think they also did get the benefit of that on some of these like Kyle Lowry flops on the 3-point make. He got like a 4-point play off of Denny, and then he drew a foul of Bradley Beal that got him 2 more free throws. So it's not good that they were. You can't complain about the officials too much because the Wizards will probably get some calls the next time they're in Washington, but it was a little bit unfortunate that officiating had a role to decide in this game.
Yeah, interesting shovel pass there on 1st and goal for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I agree, it's a frustrating game when it comes down to free throws, but you gotta not foul and you gotta make your shots, and they didn't do that. So let's get into this next game, unfortunately, against the Boston Celtics. Boston won. I'm not sure if Carly's still here, but I'm sure this will make her happy. They won the first quarter 35-26, so that's a big outpouring of points, and then outscored them in the second 37-29. So it's putting up over 70 points in the first half is never a recipe for success. In the third quarter, they would eclipse the previous 2 quarters and put up 41 points. And that time the Wizards put up 33, and the Wizards put up 33 in the fourth, and the Celtics only put up 17. But by that point, they had surmounted a 130-121. It's really rough when you allow for that many points through the first 3 quarters. You could pretty much have the best defense in the fourth quarter, and you're probably still going to lose that game. But overall, Bradley Beal put up 30, which was good to see. The Celtics, Jaylen Brown had a great game. They had a solid game all around. You can see over here that we have 6 other players in double figures, and so they kind of did it by committee. Champ, what are your thoughts on it?
This game was frustrating. This game was a disaster, honestly. And the crazy part about this is the Celtics didn't even have Jason Tatum. He was out with an injury, and 7 players went out and scored double figures. And what's even more frustrating, I'm looking at it now, and I get even more frustrated. 7 of 28 from 3-point land. That is a crap stat to shoot 7 of 28 from beyond the arc. This clearly is not a 3-point shooting team. So why are y'all jacking up threes like this? You are not going to win many ball games if you can't even make 10 3-pointers out of 20. If you can't even make 50% of your 3-pointers, why are you shooting threes? That is my question. This game was, sorry, Undertaker. this game was so frustrating.
I mean, I'd be
I don't
happy
even
if
want
you
to talk
even
about it anymore.
if you did 30 or 40%, but 25 is not good.
That's trash. It's absolute trash.
Yeah, but I think I don't know. There's a whole lot of reasons, but you just can't allow for them. It's really, to me, it's defense. Like I agree on the 3-point shooting side of it, but like you can't allow 30 or more points in the first 3 quarters of a game and win it. But Tim, what are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. It's just Brown killed him. I mean, Tatum didn't play, but the defense was so terrible. The Wizards were out of it in the third quarter. And when you're down by 25 after the third quarter, all you could do is just what they did, put up a great fourth just to make it seem better for somebody who didn't pay attention. But they got their ass kicked basically, and they just played well in garbage time. So
This guy right here, points in the paint. They've had 58. They outscored them points in the paint. Why don't they do more of that?
Yeah,
Right? To speak to what Champ's saying, like this seemed to be working in a game that's this high scoring. So like, I don't know. It's just frustrating.
Yeah, they gotta figure it out. But maybe this was rock bottom, because way better tonight.
Yeah, for sure. Arun, final thoughts on this game before we move on to the better game from tonight.
Yeah, I don't think the Wizards' offense was the problem. They put up 121 points. The problem was their defense, and the Celtics shot 48% from 3-point range. And Tatum wasn't there, but I'll just give a side note. I guess Kuzma wasn't there either as well. So I think that was the last. The Celtics were planning to be without Tatum, and I think before warm up, Kuzma wasn't good to go. So then that left the Wizards even more shorthanded. They're already without Rui, so then they have to rely more on Denny, who's not a great 3-point shooter. I don't think 28 3-pointers is a lot of 3-pointers. Celtics shot 35 3-pointers or 34 3-pointers, and the Wizards are capable of knocking them down as we'll transition to the next game.
It also doesn't help that Boston made every free throw.
Yeah, it's rough. All right, let's talk about tonight's game. It started off well for the Wizards over the Timberwolves. They put up 38 points and they only allowed 33, and then they put up 39 in the second and only allowed 25. And then for the third consecutive quarter, they put up above 30 again, 32. This time the Timberwolves did put up 39, made it a little bit closer, but I do like that in the fourth quarter they kept it every quarter above 32 points with 33 and only allowed for 30 for a 142 to 127 victory. We talked about it earlier. Porzingis went off 41 points. Bradley Beal at 22. Kuzma at 23. When you've got 80 points combined like that, from 3 scorers, you're going to be a tough team to beat on any given night. Champ, what are some of your thoughts?
Number one, I'm giving me a Papa John's pizza tomorrow with the code WIZ50 because they scored over 125 points. I'm happy about that. Number two, Kristaps Porzingis had his best game as a Wizard and his best game of his career. 41 freaking points. Are you kidding me? What a game. Like, this is the bounce back game.
31 minutes too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This was the bounce back game they needed. After 3 straight losses to teams in their own conference, they come back home and they ran the Timberwolves out of the gym. And that's what they needed. This is the game that they needed right here, was to go out there and do this. Kuzma contributed, Beal contributed, Jordan Goodwin, Corey Kispert, people contributed, and then defensively they played much better than they have been in the past. This was a much better game. 3-point shooting was much better, 48%. So they're almost at the 50-50 mark. They shot much better from beyond the arc. And though they missed 4 free throws, that's fine. Okay. But it really didn't make much of a difference with the fact that, as Robbie just said, 80 of your points came from a couple of your starters and some of your bench players. You like that. What more can you ask for from your team than to go out and do that? And again, Kristaps just really made me happy going out there and playing the game that he did tonight. So this was an amazing game.
Yeah, your 3 starters of your 5 put up 80 points. That's crazy. I mean, I can't remember the last time a big 3 has put that up. Maybe Arun can let us know that when we get to his part. But Tim, what are your thoughts on on this game?
I think this was probably the best Wizards offensive game of the season for sure. They just couldn't miss, and they were definitely moving the ball around. The Timberwolves played bad defense for sure, but the Wizards deserve a lot of credit because they did hit pretty much every open shot, and they had a lot of nice drives, so they didn't settle every time.
12 steals too, which I think is an impressive number.
Yeah, they played hard on defense. They played a lot of guys, a lot of energy. They definitely let the T-Wolves come back a little bit at the end of the first half and the third quarter, at the beginning of the third quarter, but they turned it on the second half of the third quarter and just played well till the end. And they were able to empty their bench early. I think when Cat got hurt for the T-Wolves, that really let the air out of them a little bit, but Anthony Edwards was great. He was just dunking on them and kind of getting any shot that he wanted, but the T-Wolves could not stop the Wizards, and they got too far behind in the first half. It's a good win because T-Wolves have talent. They have a lot of size too, so
they had almost the same record going into this, I want to say.
Yeah, it was a feel-good win, not a bad team. So if the Wizards can play like this, they're going to beat most teams, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. Arun, when was the last time a big three showed up like that? Was it back when our big three? No, probably more recently than that. But 80 points is a lot for 3 players to put up.
Yeah, I think like a couple. I think it was, I forget which team. Somebody had like a duo which combined for 80 points. So I don't think it's.
No, I mean, like, when was the last time the Wizards did it? Like, not like ever. Like, but I don't
probably. I mean, Beal probably put up 50, so I'm guessing they probably did it.
It did at some point, yeah.
So whenever he did that, they probably put up 80. But it is a lot of points, and probably have to dig more into that because Kuzma's put up like plenty of 36 point, like 35 point games, and I think they're probably like they've had 70 at least a couple of times. So it wouldn't be surprising me if this was did better. But Porzingis, this is a career high for him, 41 points. That's even beats his career high with the Knicks. He only had 4 rebounds, but if you get 41 points, I'll take that. And Beal much better as far as the team aspect, getting everybody involved. And it's a lot easier to get everybody involved when they're knocking down threes at like a 48% 3-point clip. And it seems like those 3-pointers fall when they're at home, but can they fall on the road? I think 16 of their next 20 games are on the road. Chris Miller was saying that on the broadcast, but good for Porzingis. He apparently was the first time he's been warming up for the game and shoot around. So that's good. So maybe he'll do that going forward. It seemed to get him on track. I don't think the Timberwolves are particularly it's a weird fit because Towns, Gobert, it's just like didn't seem like it was a good fit. I actually think this trade that they made, they give 5 first-round picks for Rudy Gobert. That's going to probably turn out to be a disastrous trade if all they have to show for it is having a similar record to the Wizards. Like they're probably thinking about like a championship. And Anthony Edwards, he's pretty good. He got to the rim a lot, but it's a good for the Wizards to get a win against, even though both teams are on a back-to-back. It's nice for the Wizards to get a win at home before they go on a lot of games on the road.
Yeah, as you're talking about, it's really important to get this back-to-back because that road swing is going to be tough. I'm looking at the upcoming schedule here. So we've got a Nets game on Wednesday, November 30th. Then they play, that one is in Brooklyn, and then they go to Charlotte for the Hornets, and that game's on Friday, December 2nd. It's a 7:00 game. And they play the Lakers on Sunday. It's another one of those 6:00 games. So it's a home game. And so those are the 3 games that we have this week. I'm gonna let each one of you guys pick a game to talk about. Champ, I'm gonna let you go first. Which game do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about the Nets game because Kevin Durant, there was a quote I saw on social media about how he feels like a lot of people don't like him or Kyrie Irving and all of that and everything like that. So apparently they have a chip on their shoulder and things like that. And I feel like the Wizards coming off such a big win over the the Timberwolves and having to go into their house, they're going to come in and take that chip off of their shoulder and then shove it right up their ass. That's basically how I feel about that. This Brooklyn Nets team, with the amount of talent that they have, are not playing up to the level that they should be with the talent that they have. And I think that this Wizards team can take advantage of that, honestly. The only thing that I would say is that they should be very, very careful with their shot selection. Don't take so many threes. Like I said, you did a much better job against the Timberwolves from the 3-point line, shooting 48%. But you have to be very, very particular about your 3-point shot, especially when you have somebody like a Kevin Durant in there. Ben Simmons is a game time decision with a knee injury. So if he's in there, you have to be mindful of not only him and Kyrie, but also KD as well. So you have to be very mindful. Defense has to be at a premium with this team because of the talent of the individual I just named. So if you're going to win this game, you definitely have to be much more defensively sound, and you have to be very, very careful with shot selection and making more high percentage shots. And if you have much better looks at three, taking those, but don't take too many, because otherwise this Nets team can take you out at a drop of a hat. I'm calling a win for the Wizards here to get a second straight win and take that chip off of their shoulders and then throw it at them.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Tim, which game do you want to talk about between the Lakers or the Hornets?
I guess I'll bite the bullet and do the Hornets because nobody wants to talk about them. But I think this is a winnable game, and the Wizards are likely to have a 3-game win streak. Obviously, if the Wizards can beat the Nets. The Hornets are just a bad team this year, one of the worst in the Eastern Conference. They do have ball, but just not a ton of talent there. And I think the Wizards definitely need to win a game like this if they're going to make the playoffs this year. So I know it's a road game, but the Wizards play pretty well on the road, and it's not necessarily like a sellout. So I like their chances in this one for sure. Also, it's against Oubre, so familiar face. I mean, he's been on a lot of teams, so I doubt he really cares about playing the Wizards, but it's just kind of a good alum to play against.
Yeah. Arun, your thoughts on the Lakers?
Yeah, the Lakers started off the season really badly at I think I'm sorry. They started the season like 1-10, but now they've won 5 of their past 6 games, and so it could be a much tougher test right now. They're currently leading the Indiana Pacers. That being said, Anthony Davis, he's injured and he may not play that game against Washington. So it's kind of a prove-it game for the Wizards to take care of business, which is easier said than done against LeBron James. Even he always has career nights against the Wizards, but they will go against Russell Westbrook, who is coming off the bench as a 6-man. Other former Wizards on this team include Troy Brown Jr. and Thomas Bryant. So it'll be interesting to see if the Wizards can beat the Lakers in DC.
Yeah. All right. And then we'll talk about the upcoming games past that next week when we break down those 3 games. It's been a fun night. I appreciate you all for breaking them down with me. I got a question. Has any of you guys been keeping up with the World Cup? If any of you have been, I will keep you on for a little breakdown segment, but if not, I'll let you move on.
I've watched some. I can help.
Okay, cool. I'll keep you on. Arun, have you watched any?
Yeah, I've watched.
Okay, cool. And Champ, what do you?
I guess I'm leaving early because I haven't.
All right. So I'm going to put
everybody.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And I'm gonna switch up and put on.
All I know is USA has to win tomorrow. Otherwise, they're out. They have to win.
Yeah, that's true. That's exactly. That's a good segue. I'm gonna let you give a shout out to the No Spots podcast and any other information you want to give the fans, and I'll let you go. And then Tim, Arun, and I will go through the World Cup standings going into the last week here of the group stage.
Right. So coming up on Thursday, we're back on Thursday with the New Japan podcast series, World Tag League, Super Junior Tag League Rebound, where myself and Sage will be looking back at a busy week for both tournaments, 5 cards over the next 6 nights. They have a break coming up on Tuesday, and then they're back at it Wednesday. We'll cover it all coming up as well as the week ahead. And then on the weekly podcast on Saturday, streaming on Twitch, we will look back at Survivor Series War Games, as well as look ahead to what's going on, look back on the week that was and the fallout from Survivor Series as well. So make sure you check us out on twitch.tv/True No Spots Pod on Thursday and Saturday, with the podcast audio going up on all podcasting platforms. And you can check us out at SportsOTHP.com and click the partners button for the audio.
Thank you so much, Champ. As always, I look forward to hopefully getting a big win over the Giants and continuing this hot streak next week. People should definitely go check out the No Spots podcast. I know there's some wrestling fans in chat tonight over on Twitch. I hope that they follow and check out your live pay-per-view stuff and all of your podcast stuff. So it's all a great time over there. I'll give you a champ command one more time.